Welcome to JWL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the world. If this is your first time checking out a video, please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. We're watching a clip of First Take, talking about Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott. I literally just recorded a video with regards to First Things First, talking about the Cowboys going all in, Dak Prescott, and, all of that. But then I saw this clip, asking the straight up question, should they get rid of Dak Prescott? And I guess Adam Schefter is making the claim that he thinks that they're going to have Dak maybe just play on this final year because that if they were going to re-sign him, it would have already been done. I'm not saying I agree or disagree with that statement. Just because you haven't gotten the deal done just now doesn't mean that it's not going to get done. So I think that's a little bit blown out of proportion, but I'm not locked into, the local whispers within around the Dallas Cowboys organization, but I personally haven't heard that. But I do think it's an interesting question to contemplate of, should you get rid of Dak Prescott? Because he is a good quarterback, but not a great elite quarterback. I've been saying this a lot, and so if you watch the other videos within the last couple of days, I apologize for repeating myself, but for those of you who maybe don't know, Dak Prescott is a good quarterback. He is not great. He is not elite, okay? He has a losing record against winning teams. That's not good. So, if you get rid of Dak Prescott, then the question is what are you going to do, right? It's hard just to get good quarterbacks, let alone great and elite quarterbacks. But the biggest problem with Dak Prescott is that people think he's elite. They think he's great. So they pay him all this money. They pay him like he's Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, but he can't do those things. So now you can't build a great team around him. And so now you're not going to win at the highest level. When in reality, in order for Dak Prescott to win, he needs a team like the 49ers around him. He needs all of these weapons, and he needs an elite coach like a Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, or obviously an Andy Reid. That's what he needs. That's what you need to win with Dak Prescott. And if you don't have those things, then yes, you'll be a pretty good regular season team. You'll be fighting for NFC East, division, divisions, and that's it. You maybe win a playoff game, maybe 2 playoff games, but the odds of you being able to truly make a run, win an NFC championship, win a Super Bowl, history has proven that to not be the case. And why do we suddenly think that's not going to be the case? It's just going to magically change. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and again and again, but expecting different results. So, but again, I do admit that if you get rid of Dak, what do you do here? The best play would have been, which is what I've said before, is that the timing just didn't match up. But they would have been better off if, let's say, they were able to get rid of Dak and then sign a Kirk Cousins. Because now you get Kirk Cousins, who gives you pretty much identical stats in production of Dak Prescott, but you're going to be paying him $15+ million a year. That is massive. He signed what was it? Ended up being $45 million a year, I think it was. Something along those lines. I forget exactly. That's huge. Dak is going to be getting $60 million. Imagine what you could do if you had all that extra money going around. You could do some magic. Not to mention, if Kirk Cousins went to Dallas, you would have maybe even been able to get him a little bit less, because then Jerry Jones can work his magic and be like, bro, you got the star in your helmet. You're going to be in instant commercials. I'm going to put you in commercials. You're going to make that money back on the back end. Plus, he went to Atlanta, so Georgia. I'm not sure what their state income is, but right, the whole thing in Texas is that you have no income tax. So again, you're already making more money in that regard, if I'm correct, right? I believe I am. I'm not sure how Georgia works, but I know it's Florida, Texas, and then a couple other states. But so correct me if I am wrong with regards to that. Regardless, you are gonna, Kirk Cousins is not in the Sleep Number commercials. Dak Prescott is. So let's take a listen to see what their explanation for this is, and then we can kind of break it down from there.
Those Bristol streets. Great to see you, sir. Dan, tell me this. Do you feel like it's time for Dallas to move on from Dak?
Yeah, I said I would have the day after they got absolutely smoked at home in the playoff game from Green Bay. I had said I would blow the whole thing up and start over again, both at quarterback and at head coach in Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott. When you hear Adam Schefter talk about that and the wondering of,
so
okay,
ugly.
so Dak on the last year of his contract and Mike McCarthy in the last year of his contract. Here's the reality in Dallas. There are going to be Super Bowl expectations without Super Bowl support. Because you can say the truth of those guys are going into the last years of their contracts. They're also going into the last years of their contracts with hey, you have to go win a divisional round or get to the NFC Championship game or you're getting fired without the necessary means to go do so, if we're being honest. And those two guys, Dak being the main of it, will get blamed. They're down 5 starters. They can't afford new people because of the money that Dak is making at $60 million and obviously the need to pay a CeeDee Lamb and a Micah Parsons. And they don't have enough draft capital to replace those 5 starters. So there's going to be this expectation to go get result, but they don't have the support roster-wise to actually go do that. And that's why I had said, the Cowboys are content with being good. They're content with, I guess, a little bit above average or mediocrity. And I would have moved on from both McCarthy and Dak Prescott after that Green Bay game.
Well, you're wrong. I'm not surprised.
You're wrong. He's not wrong. Although I would have maybe kept Dak Prescott and gotten a better coach. I would have done everything I could have to get Harbaugh. I would have done everything I could have to get Harbaugh, or maybe make a play for one of these newer upcoming OCs, even though if it's a gamble. And I would have moved on from Mike McCarthy, and then you get maybe one more year to evaluate Dak Prescott with maybe one of the better coaches that he could have, and then you trust you trust like a Harbaugh to say can you win with Dak, yes or no? And if he says yes, then okay, I trust you, Harbaugh. That's what we're gonna do. And if he says no, I trust you, right? Should have gotten Sean Payton from last year. That's what I would have done if I was Jerry Jones in that regard. But I think the biggest issue is, and I've said this before, a couple months ago at this point, I think, is that Jerry Jones will not be alive in the next 10 years, right? He is an old man. He is hanging on by a thread. It's an unfortunate reality of life. And by making some of these drastic, bold moves, you have the potential of becoming like the Commanders or the Giants for at least a couple of years. And that sucks. That's not fun, right? That's awful and brutal. The Cowboys are at least relevant. People are talking about them. You can still cheer for them on any given Sunday. They have exciting games, for the most part. They are always being talked about, can they win, the NFC? Can they win a Super Bowl? And that's fun. That is exciting. And you know what? It's technically the second best thing. If you can't win a Super Bowl, at least you're relevant. At least people are talking about you. At least people are somewhat excited to go to the game. So I get where if you're near the end of your life, and you know that this is it. On one side, it's well, I'm near the end of my life. Let's go for it and win a Super Bowl. That's great. But you know what? It would be pretty sad to have, the Dallas Cowboys be like the Washington Commanders or the Carolina Panthers while Jerry's literally has a few more years left. That sucks. And so I do understand that it's listen, it's, this is the second best thing, so may as well at least enjoy it. But again, that's a billionaire problem. So, it's hard to relate. And obviously the fans don't want to hear that. But listen, that's the reality of life. And when you hold all the power, you hold all the power.
Surprised. I would say this to you. When it comes to Mike McCarthy, I've been on the record, doggy. I've said, listen, they should have gotten rid of McCarthy. Not that he deserved to be fired, quote, unquote, with 3 consecutive 12-5 seasons. It's that you're not Bill Belichick, and Bill Belichick was available. And I think the combination of Jerry Jones and, his attachment and addiction to the camera and the talking, you juxtapose that to Bill Belichick, who has no desire to do that whatsoever. And to hone in on getting those players locked in and focused on what they're supposed to be focused on instead of all the ancillary things on the outside, I think that would have been a perfect match. And I think that Jerry Jones dropped the ball in not going there and getting Bill Belichick and saying, damn it, I need a championship. Time's running out for me.
That would have been hilariously bad hire.
This is what Jerry Jones is saying. I'm not joking about that. He talks about this kind of stuff. So
what would they have done on offense?
I would have gotten Bill Belichick. But to get rid of Dak Prescott, let's pump the brakes. I know that I can be critical of them because of the nauseating, disgusting fan base that is the Dallas Cowboy fan base. I love trolling them, no question about it. But in all seriousness, Dio and Doggy, here's the deal. Dak Prescott, 8 seasons, 6 winning seasons, 4 NFC East titles, 3 Pro Bowl selections, just 2 playoff victories, 2 and 5 record. I get all of that, but I'm looking at it. You go from leading the league in interceptions in 2022 to leading the league in touchdown passes in 2023 with 36. He didn't have an awful season.
Those were all against losing teams, non-playoff teams, teams that were not good. They just feasted on terrible teams, okay? They beat one team with the winning record, which was very lucky against the Detroit Lions, and they beat the Eagles, who were flailing, who lost to the New York Giants, okay, who were losing to the Arizona Cardinals. They were losing to everyone. They were a terrible team. So again, if you take pride in beating the Eagles last season, I don't know what to tell you because they were absolutely flailing. They had to clean house. They fired their offense, their OC, their DC. You know, a bunch of players were on their last leg retiring because they had nothing left in the tank. So this whole idea that that's even impressive is comical. The rest of that came from teams that were not good. And any winning team with a winning record, they lost to. Okay, they got smoked by the 49ers. They lost to the Bills. They lost to the Miami Dolphins, who aren't even that good. They lost to the Eagles. So again, enough with these dumb, inflated, stats that are so much more than meets the eye. So it's just, he has a losing record against winning teams. Okay, that is a fact. So you can say that he won, the division out of 4 out of whatever years, and all these Pro Bowls and touchdowns and this and that. He has a losing record against winning teams. That's the reality.
He had an awful game,
great season.
No doubt about it. He had a great season. And so I'm looking at it from that perspective, and I'm saying to myself, okay, if I get rid of him, who am I going to get in return for him? Who's the answer? You have to think like that.
No.
You have to think like that, Dio, because the point is somebody has to play quarterback. Somebody. So I have no choice but to look at you if I'm talking about getting rid of you and to entertain who I'm going to get to replace you. I have no choice but to do that, okay? By virtue of the fact that somebody else has to play the damn position. So all of those things getting taken into consideration, along with the fact that I got to entertain playing Micah Parsons now. I definitely got to pay CeeDee Lamb now. You're talking about Dak Prescott and his cap hit. By the way, acting like it's a big deal. Still $55.4 million cap hit, okay? All right, the bottom line is there's only Deshaun Watson in the National Football League has a higher cap hit next season. I'm looking at all of those things, and I'm saying, okay, Dak Prescott can ball. I do know that. I'm not going to get rid of him when I don't have a definitive answer. If there was a quarterback out there that was better than Dak Prescott, hell, the Pittsburgh Steelers wouldn't be celebrating having Russell Wilson and Justin Fields so badly.
And the one thing about the 5 starters,
they're not celebrating. So maybe you're celebrating because you're a fool, but I don't know how many Steelers fans are celebrating. If they really wanted to be aggressive, they could have convinced Dak that, hey, we, waive your no trade clause. Like, we're going to trade you somewhere because we're not going to re-sign you. So it's just not happening. Unless you win a Super Bowl, it's not happening. So we're going to get rid of you and, convince him. And then they could have went out and got Kirk Cousins. I think that actually would have been a decent play. I really would have, especially if you were unwilling to now go out and get a Bill Belichick, which I still don't think would have been a good hire. I really, really don't. Because what are you doing then on offense? Your defense would probably be pretty comparable because Quinn did a great job. And then the question is like, but now you got rid of McCarthy, who runs that whole offense. Now, what are you expecting to do? And it's an offensive-driven league these days. And now you're going to get Bill Belichick, whose offense has been absolute garbage trash with the Patriots outside of, obviously, when you had Tom freaking Brady. So I really don't get this whole idea of that you would get Bill Belichick and that would just magically make everything better. Because he said, oh, Jerry Jones would have worked great with him because Bill doesn't like to be in front of the camera and Jerry Jones does, but Bill Belichick likes to have all the control and Jerry Jones wants to have all the control. So how the heck does that make sense? It doesn't. Use your head. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours, whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so let's get into some discussions, let's get into some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.